It's
We are
being
being live
streamed.
streamed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
All right.
We are there.
It's always this long intro when we're doing it live, but it's worth it because great conversations. And now every
Mm.
week. So I'm just waiting for us to hit go live on Facebook. That's now popped up. We should be good to go. Yes, we are on there. So, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Self Help Bookshelf and the High Leverage Actions podcast, where every week we bring you small topics that make a significant impact in your life through gentle change, whether that's neurotypical or neurodivergent world, or a combination of both, whoever you are, whatever your family or work circumstances are like. We bring little nuggets every week to help you on a personal growth journey. Now, today, I've set up before Rory's arrived and I have picked the topic and not even told Rory. So we're going to go on the fly today. This is how we can really challenge ourselves. So it's kind of a two-part loaded question around self-acceptance today. The first one is, how can I fit in? And the second one, thinking more about all of our neurodivergent colleagues who like to work and self-employed or trying to stand out in the world. So how can I fit in? But also, how can I stand out when I don't fit in? So that's the two-part question today. Or when we do fit. So it's all about standing out, fitting in. And this is such an ongoing conversation that I hear in the neurodivergent world is about fitting in, but then there's the business world about standing out. And so many of us coexist in both worlds. So I thought that would make a great topic for today, and especially with all these book launches you've got coming up, where you've learned to fit into the world in such a beautiful way. You now want to stand out with your books as well. So
Love it. Love it. Fitting in and standing out or standing down and fitting out. Um, um, yeah, so thanks for that. And if you're here and you want to, if you hear anything that you like, give it a little comment and repeat it back out or ask us questions on anything that comes up, because when you do that, you create more insight, learnings, immediately neuroplastic changes in your brain when you insight to and output it, whether it's speech or writing or anything like that. And then if you get instant feedback from that, from our questions the next day, it's going to help you to remember all the things you actually, why would you watch this in the first place if you don't want to remember anything to do with it? So so that's, I mean, it's not just for sharing it out, but also, those comments and the likes and the shares, it shares to other people that may one piece of information, it again just might completely change someone's life. And so that's what we're here for, to share good insights. And when you ask those two questions, Kay, the fitting in piece, how do I fit in and how do I stand out? Um, what comes up for me so much all the time is, yeah, the logic brain needs to know how all the time. It wants to know that if I do this, it means this. It's like I do this because of this, or I do this, but and this, and actually, yeah, that's validating and that helps. And I'm not disregarding logic. In fact, we need logic, otherwise we end up, um, either doing something really silly and chasing everyone away that we love by mistake. Well, that's a very very extreme version of being irrational and not making sense to self or anyone else. So, but that's why I'm going to that extremes point of view, is that we need the logic to rationalize our emotions so that we don't do something silly and do lots of urges that we shouldn't do or should do or whatever. And so learning is important, but what we've already made things mean about ourselves and others is all made up, and um, has to be a conscious choice in every single moment, not just one here and one there. The more we become present to exactly everything that's going on that we want to create or don't want in our lives, then we can start making informed decisions based on that logic and that emotional urge to do what we want to do or not do what we don't want to do. So the last piece I'll say on that before I'll throw the ball back over is like the more it's just more questions come up for me. It's like how is something that can just go down a paper chasing problem solving route when if it's a problem it can feel emotionally charged in the first place. So most of the time we want to actually just let go of the how, completely let go of the how and just go who, what, when do I want this? Oh, by here. Well, I'll just get on with it. Find someone to help me and just do it and not know how. Just don't need to know the how. But coming back to like fitting in, it's like why? And why is a big one to sit down with. It's not just a case of it can answer that quickly, but what type of fitting in are we talking about? Why do we want to fit in? Why do we need to fit in? Is it because we just might be fearing judgment? And if so, that's always going to be there. That will never not be there. And actually, when we are discharging the negative stress of stuff we're and just get back to neutral, and those are mindfulness techniques. Those are practical tools that we can actually do to get back to neutral and then just get into dreaming into what we want, because the people that dream into what they want and just do it may stand out. They end up standing out anyway. So it's like, how do I fit in? Just stand out with what you want in the first place, and how do I stand out? Or is by fitting in to what is declared as right and suitable for the self.
Brilliant, amazing, Rory, amazing. And yeah, I think sometimes there's also this cliche aspect of fitting in. We hear words said so much that we repeat those words without really truly understanding what it means for us as individuals. And especially when we're talking about people who are neurodivergent, trying to fit in and trying to work and stand out, with this confusion between the two. And that's where I thought this would be a fantastic topic. So with fitting in implies that we have to be like everything else or everybody else to be able to be like them. But why would we want to be like them when we really want to be ourselves? Because then when we get a job where we have to be like them and do like them and follow what they do, we don't feel like ourselves. We stand out for all the wrong reasons very often. I certainly have found that in myself for jobs over the years where I've not been able to fit in with things and I have stood out, for the wrong reasons, where it's I'm making too many mistakes, I just haven't got the right mindset for it. I just ended up going through a string of jobs and not being able to fit in that sense. So in a way, if we're not fitting in, it's a message that we're in the wrong place, or we haven't got the right mindset for the place we're in, or it's just not the place we belong. So I think for me, part of it is rephrasing in that is, how can I fit in, is to where do I fit in? Where and who with do I fit in with? And
Where do I want to fit in?
yeah, exactly. And where do I want to? And so for me, there's another question that comes before that. Like Rory said, these are not easy questions to sit down and really think. If you feel like you're finding it difficult to fit in and you don't know where you fit in, there are some simple exercises we can give, and we might be able to share them in the group or on some websites, as to how to sit and reflect and find out, first of all, who you are. Because unless you really truly know who you are and what you want, how do you know where you're going to fit in? So for me, there is this big concept around self-understanding is the first one, because there are a lot of people who are still trying to understand themselves as a human being, and even more so with neurodiversity. But then once you understand something, that's not the same as self-acceptance. Actually accepting, do you know what? That is me. That is who I am. This is how I am. This is what I want to be. And so some people have this fear about being judged and mocked and not fitting in because of who they are. And I've seen it time and time again where people deny who they are and what they are and what the skills are and what the weaknesses are and don't fit in because of it. And then the moment they start to go, do you know what? This is me. I accept me as I am. I accept what I'm good at. I accept what are my weaknesses and I can delegate out to. They start to belong. They start to fit in because I think it's a topic we did many, many weeks ago now because this has been going for quite some time now, this podcast, but we'll find the link to it. It was one about interdependence. And first of all, when we can accept a lot more facts about ourselves through a lot of very deep reflection, but when we can accept ourselves and work out where interdependence means we can help others and where it means we need help from others, we become a team. And when we become a team, we fit in. I
Love
think I'm
it.
going to leave that there for now because I kind of just summed it up right there.
Yeah,
So for
amazing,
you,
amazing, amazing. Yeah, and that's actually what you just shared there was something that was I was building up to, like adding to this as well. And so I love the way it's not black and white. It's not about one way or the other, and that's it. It's like which parts of which bits do is it's about remembering the self, validating and helping the ego, as it works. It is there. It's about fighting the ego doesn't help. So noticing that there's an ego that wants to, be stroked like a cat or whatever it is, and just like, it's okay to feel like this or that, or as soon as that process is happening, then there's ways to address the wider scope of the bigger dreams, the bigger visions. But yeah, working backwards to what that might be for some, yeah, the piece that I was going to say around um, uh, the fitting in piece is often if there's a craving for that, of course, we don't just have to be letting go of that and not fitting in at all. Because if I was to like stand in a circle wanting to just spin round and fling my arms around the whole time, I wouldn't be able to get a hug from anyone. And because I'd just like slap them in the face as I was just going like this the whole time, like not fitting into the space. But and it's an extreme example again, but basically, of course, to fit in is to, to be able to even have a hug with someone. There's got to be a sense of both calm, connected, open, and sensory, and that's co-regulated. And so to have a co-regulation space like you just brought in as well, co-regulation, connection, and cooperation. The idea of a hug is that moment of equal cooperation to just relax and hold, rather than like I'm doing what I want to do.
would you
It
do
doesn't.
anyway?
It wouldn't work. The hug wouldn't work if it was like I'm just going to keep wriggling this arm like this whilst trying to hug. So it's a good example of that, the somatic way of wanting to fit in, and that's where we want that connection, and we want to create a space for that to connection. So, but yeah, and also fitting in a work environment, a team building environment, or there is the element of learning to have a conversation with someone. I didn't know how to have a conversation with someone really. I just knew how to ask a question and hope that they would be the talker. And that was it. That was my version of having a conversation in a group situation, or people that I could hang out with that were very similar to me and would just there would be time and space to just say something and then not say anything, or then I'd have time to process that thing and then say what I was saying, or they would the times I thought real great conversations were happening when I was with someone that was naturally curious and really good at asking questions, because I got some kind of thing that I could have an idea about and talk about. And so I really thrive off people asking me questions and asking for my help and asking for things, because as soon as they do that, they get everything that I can possibly give, because that's what I do. So it's that sense of um yeah, that sense of fitting in from a social perspective or just an individual one-to-one perspective, and and so that's that. There's that piece that was, yeah, focusing on that. It's important to work out what is important to fit in with and what is not. Again, coming back to that deeper insider layer rather than a superficial, obvious thoughts idea, which can come from more ego and fear of stuff, to like relaxed, heart-centered. Okay, what's truly important to me from that perspective? And then on the other side, when you talk about standing out, business relatable stuff, it's almost the opposite. Like you say, it's supposed to be trying to do things all on our own and have the idea and produce the idea and um, uh, present the idea in a sellable way, and whatever it is, all of that has to be seemingly unique, but it doesn't just have to be unique. It can be the same idea recycled, that's been done again and again and again, but then also adding a sense of what makes that thing, could that thing be unique in itself? And yes, it naturally is through the person having the idea, because they've got a unique thumbprint in the first place. So what is it that is unique about me that presents this idea? Then it becomes standable, outable as well.
Love
So
it.
that So they so that so yeah, that's how I would address the standing out thing. Is like not to try too hard at that either, because it wants to be relatable to, it's about, again, creating conversations. The whole idea of market research, once I finally actually decided I wanted to do something for myself, and then I started studying about marketing, I was like, marketing's great. It's just being used to sell crap that people don't need, that then they think that they want, because they're
Mm.
just told it non-stop through adverts and all this stuff. I had resentment about marketing, so much so it took me a year of work on myself to be able to understand that process was actually, if I've got something really, really important to help people with, all I have to do is ask questions to people and see if they want it.
Which you
That's
were good at
that's
anyway.
that's it. That's it. That's marketing. And it's like writing down what people have said based on whether it was a yes or a no or a maybe or whatever it was, and just noticing whether what type of people said yes the most to whatever or no to most, and just go, well, that's the kind of, that's where I want to go. It's the people that do want that thing, and I stand out to them, and all the thing stands out to them that I'm sharing.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I like that aspect of that, in not taking those questions as rejection, but as a message to where not just perhaps your services don't belong for someone else, but where, I suppose, if I go back to the question, is how can we stand out? I think in my mind, it's still about that sense of belonging and acceptance. And in this time, instead of it's what being what we accept for ourselves, it's about how we make other people feel about accepting us. When we're marketing, and like you said, if we ask the right questions, get the right message out, other people have a sense of belonging towards us, towards what we're offering in services. Or if it's people who are selling products, then that person might feel like a sense of that belongs in their life. So they need to purchase it for whatever reason, whether because they like it or because they need it, then it still needs to be that sense of belonging. And so I think that, to me, kind of in a nutshell, sums up fitting in and standing out is creating this sense of belonging. either in ourselves where we belong or how we can give that same feeling to others. And yet I know it's more complex than that when, like you say, when it comes to all the marketing programs and things. But I think the key part of today's messages I want people to understand is, despite how complex the world makes it seem, with all of the conversations about neurodiversity and self-acceptance and marketing and your perfect client avatars and whatever services you're creating, actually really it can boil down to an overall much simpler message, but then it's learning about that in more detail, but it's giving that overall feeling of belonging both ways. And a bit you were saying about fitting in as well, and like flapping your arms around and trying, but on the opposite side, if you went to a rave and everyone's dancing and flapping their arms around and you were the one trying to hug them, again, you might not fit in. So to me, it's like two bits of a puzzle, right? If you want them to fit in, it's like a lock, they've got to be able to match. And so we have to find those places where we are like the piece of the missing puzzle, because not only do we fit in, but we stand out as in, oh, come over here, we need you over here. And similar example would be like a set of keys. If you've got some big medieval brass key to a castle door and you try fitting it in a Yale lock, it's not going to work. And vice versa, the Yale key is just going to sit and spin pointlessly in the keyhole of a medieval castle door. So we have to find the place where we are unique, like a set of keys. We are all unique. And it's recognizing where our uniqueness serves others. Like, what keys are they looking for to fit the lock, and so on. So it's just this kind of analogy about, at the end of the day, like Rory says, everybody's got a unique thumbprint, we've got unique voices, and every single human being has a unique perspective on the world, because no two of us live in this world from the same perspective. So why would we try to worry about fitting in and be like run-of-the-mill robot production line? It doesn't serve anybody. So if you're finding you are not fitting in a work, in a relationship, in a social gathering that you're in, maybe it's just the wrong lock and key combination for you. And it's finding out more about yourself and where you do belong. Now, for younger generations, and certainly teenagers, young adults into 30s, this can be quite a deep exploration over time and trial and error, trying different groups, trying different activities, trying different jobs, and not taking it as a failure when something doesn't work, but taking it as a lesson. What did I enjoy from that job or that group that I attended? What didn't I enjoy about it? What was I good at? What was I not so good at? And start to make notes over time. So whether it's just doing a brain dump on a piece of paper now and again, like a mind map, or keeping a longer term journal, the really important part is going back and reflecting on it and learning from it. Lessons learned and failing forward are two more really big key words that are used a lot in personal growth. Failing forward. So, okay, that didn't go right. How can it go right next time? Or how could I try it a little bit differently next time? And then monitor the results again until eventually you get to a place where you go, now I know what works for me. And I know I did something years ago, must have been about 15 years ago. I did something called Eulerian circles. And I'll see if I can find a link to it and put it in the chat. But it was 4 circles on a piece of paper where they all overlap and interlink. And there was something about your personal life to write in each of the 4 circles. And then you had to fill in the overlapping parts with a common denominator from each of the sections. So you got like 4 petal bits. And then after you'd done that, you looked at the 4 petals and found the common denominator to write in the middle. And they said, that is your purpose. Now, not to just kind of make a big joke out of this, but my center word ended up as talking. That was the thing I was good at, talking. But this wasn't just because I like talking a lot. It was because it applied to the jobs where I'd worked with public rather than back office. It applied to groups where I'd worked serving others in voluntary duties. It applied to social gatherings that I'd been to. And I liked having conversations with a wider group of people, but on purposeful topics. And this went right back to when I was 12 years old and my first ever job. I was doing a cleaning, actually, I should say 13, but I was actually 12. I was doing a cleaning job in a museum. And although I didn't mind the cleaning, I was polishing the brass and blacking the stoves and cleaning perspex windows on displays and whatever. The bit that I enjoyed was talking to the public about the artifacts in the displays because they're walking past and asking questions while I'm cleaning. And I loved doing that and I enjoyed answering the questions. And I'd noticed that same pattern through a number of jobs. So when I was looking at leaving another corporate office job to do this and become an emotional awareness expert, it kind of sunk in that actually, yes, I do like talking to people. So I then joined a Toastmasters group, which is a public speaking group, to learn the art of speaking publicly rather than just talking, because there's a difference between talking and speaking. And that for me was a big step forward to recognize turning a strength into an actual skill. And this is what fitting in can be about over time, whilst also standing out or learning where we belong. So for me, there's been a lot of lessons learned along the way. And I certainly know we hope we can inspire you to learn your lessons and find yourself, self-acceptance, or remember, self-discovery. So self-awareness and discovery, and then self-acceptance is key too. Because if I'd have come up with that little thing about, oh, I like talking, but then I'd reflected on the fact that everybody had mocked me for years about talking too much, I could have given up and crawled into a hole and not done what I love doing. But I made the conscious choice to accept that about myself and make that a skill rather than a weakness. And this is what that art of self-discovery and self-acceptance is all about. Follow your heart, not other people's judgments. There we go. Back to you, Rory.
Amazing. I think it's been covered really, really well. And I was just thinking, I wonder, just as a fun exercise, whether or not I could randomly flick to a point and see if I can neurodivergently um, find a way to see what I've written and see how it fits in with fitting in and standing out. Yeah,
That's
for
a good
that.
idea, Rory. So, yes, if anybody who's not watched this before, Rory is launching the book on Sunday this week, along with Sue Bailey's Misunderstood No More. They're doing a joint book launch together with the Self Help Bookshelf. So, if you found
Okay.
you're most likely in the Self Help Bookshelf already on Facebook or on YouTube and their channel. But follow us on the other and watch out for these two amazing neurodivergent authors who have learned to both fit in and stand out by finding where they belong in this world. And that's here in the self-help bookshelf for starters. Yay, what on with lots of little LED lights.
I've I've opened LED lights. Okay, so this says more often than not, the light in the middle of the tunnel
Oh,
needs the attention it deserves from your very own friendly light bulb replacement servicer.
that's amazing.
So, light bulb fittings, fitting in the light bulb into the right place, as you'd mentioned before, and standing out. Well, the lights, if you put on lights and it makes them stand out in a way. So this is these LEDs are standing out, and you screw in the bulbs for them to fit in the right place. So there you go.
Awesome. And also, the light illuminates other objects and people in the environment. So they stand out because otherwise we trip over them in the dark. So we need to illuminate life. And this is part of the self-discovery and the awareness is illuminating life. And this includes our own souls.
Oh yes, and yeah, the spotlight on the stage as well with the lights. But yes, and also I'd say what that comes up for me. The reason why I've written the light in the middle of the tunnel as well, which came up for me, is like because a lot of that time that there's a bit of there's a lot of talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And so, yes, that's great. But then if we're missing the light in the middle of the tunnel, if we can only see the light at the end of the tunnel, then that means the middle of the tunnel is dark. So it's just there is a light in the middle of the tunnel that can be looked at because often we'll go to extremes. It's either I'll never get there, or how do I even deal with now compared to even there? And so but the middle bit is like if I can just go to the middle bit and light that up, and then it comes back to the deserves the attention from your very own local friendly light bulb replacement service. So that's sort of referencing getting the help and having help to get towards the middle of the tunnel without having to
Mindset
think.
shift. Yeah, it's like a mindset shift, one little bulb at a time, shifting the colors of them or actually illuminating them and so on. No, that's brilliant. And yes, it's interesting you say about the light in the middle of the tunnel, because that was the whole concept of my first book, Brain Unchained. My son is also autistic spectrum, and that's where I began my journey as the emotional awareness expert. And with him, the more he tried to fit in by proving he wasn't autistic spectrum, the more it stood out that he was, and the less he actually felt like he belonged. So it was like this reverse battle here. I want to fit in, I don't have it. And the more it stood out, the more obvious it was that he was autistic spectrum, and the harder it was for him to feel like he belonged in the world. And then when we started training about the emotional cycle diagram, which you sound about light at the end of the tunnel, that's the light at the top here rather than the darkness. He very rapidly started to change as I trained him this. And it was like he started to transition through that tunnel into the light. And the more he moved towards the light, proverbially, we say it that way, the more he moved towards the light, the better he belonged and the less obvious it was he was autistic spectrum. Until it got to a point, people never questioned that he was even vaguely on the autistic spectrum. They just didn't see it in him anymore. I'm his mum, so of course I see it because I've grown up with him and I recognize the individual traits. But he learned to fit in by accepting who he was. Once he'd got that self-acceptance, made a huge difference. And to be honest, he fitted in beautifully. And so when it came to choosing the book's title at the end of it, I said to him, so I said, I don't want the book to be the dark end of the tunnel, and I don't want it to be about the light at the end of the tunnel. I said, I wanted the book title to reflect what it felt like for him as he got through the middle of that tunnel and realized that everything was going to be okay, even if it wasn't yet. And that's where he said, it felt like my brain had been wrapped up in chains and they all started to fall away. And it felt lighter, it felt freer. He said, and he'd also said, I knew it was my journey to take and you couldn't do it for me. So this is another thing, this self-discovery and self-acceptance has to be your own journey. Nobody in the world can palm that off onto anybody else because they end up telling us, directing us, ordering us, controlling us. But you cannot hand that to someone else. You have to take self-responsibility. And so anyway, at the end of it, after saying the chains had like fallen away and it felt lighter, that was where the book title Brain Unchained came from. So there is something in this. It's not just, I mean, I know at the end of the day, we can say it's all just words, it's all made up, and it is. And, you know, everything that we tell ourselves, conscious, subconscious, is all made up from when we were a baby through every single experience. But when we realize that, we can rewrite that. We can learn and recognize what we've picked up along the way that we can rewrite consciously and subconsciously through little changes, through listening to every single episode of this podcast. And we must be getting on about 33, 34 episodes now. And there's topics like this in every single one that help you with small changes in actual activities to do or mindset shifts. and they all correlate and integrate like the pieces of the puzzle. They all work together to help with that process of personal growth. So thank you honestly for an amazing conversation again today, Rory. Considering I literally set this one up and Rory didn't even know the topic till we started, that's amazing. And it just goes to show that we can get to a point where personal growth is not a struggle. It's not this really difficult process. It's automated. Automated is not the word. Autonomous.
Or it's automated. It's
Awesome. There
all
we go. Automated.
automated.
It
It's
becomes natural.
automatic awesomeness.
There we go. I can't say it any more perfectly than that. And it
It's
is awesomeness.
yeah, and it's also I hear what you're saying, and often I find that because I've practiced this so much now, I prefer not to know really until we decide a little bit before, because although it doesn't really matter, I can hear about it, but I won't necessarily plan for it because I don't need to plan for it because I won't say it that way and I won't remember those things. And unless I'm like they're going, right, next point I was going to make was, and then I'd look down and then be like, okay, and then the next point it would be, and where it's all embodied anyway, it's all there. So it's just a case of, and this is an example of how the process of not doing the mental fitness training to not even think about the how, the why, and get caught up in that, and just knowing that the next moment is can be just as relaxing as the next one and the next one and the next one. And obviously there are stressful moments to deal with, but even then they can be dealt with without less stress by not being stressed and having plenty of ways to do self-care in between the moments when there is a demand to deal with stuff that may be more stressful.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah, honestly, it is like you say, second nature when you practice this enough. And I know for me, I've worked on my personal development for at least 30 years now. And you're probably very similar, aren't you, in your journey, certainly getting that way. And it is, for some people, this might be the very beginning of your journey in recognizing that you're not a clone of who your parents tell you you should be. And I think for me, when I was, say, about 30 years ago, realizing I don't have to be who they've brought me up to be. I can be who I want to be. So it might be that very beginning of that journey for you. It might be like us that you are 20, 30 years down the line with personal development and still learning and still growing, because we are too. It's not a book that you pick up, read once, and that's it. Everything's sorted for life. It is a journey that you are continuously on. And life changes along the way as well, because when I started my personal development journey, there was no internet and no mobile phones. So you can imagine how the world has absolutely opened up for us along the way. And we want to bring as much of that as we can to you to make that journey a little quicker, a little easier, a little more inspirational, and to remind you that if you are still struggling with it, we are here to help as well. That's the key thing. We are here. You can reach out to Rory, NeuroCreative Flow. You can reach out to me. I deal with emotional awareness, and I particularly like helping any adults in any environment who are supporting either teenagers or young adults at home, education, or workplace. And Rory, I don't know if you want to say a little about what you do.
um, I like the way what you shared just then about life didn't come with what you just shared. It's already gone, but I liked what you said about it.
Watch the
uh,
replay.
yeah, I'll watch the replay. And but it's also like it didn't come. Sometimes it says it doesn't come with the instruction manual, and yes, it doesn't. It doesn't. But actually, there are instruction manuals for managing um, emotional, mental fitness trainings and things like that to get projects out there and get out get out of procrastination into project releasing mode, and whilst self-care, basically it's self-care, it's healthcare, it's wealth care, it's stealth care, and it's getting those projects out there with help. And they can be creative, it can be called creative flow states training. There's so many different ways to describe it, but I certainly thrive with people that are more hypersensitive, highly sensitive, very creative, lots of ideas, want to get back on track with just one massive visionary one. And then it's like, oh, if you could just get one thing done, what would it be in your life? Let's work on that one because that's the one we put off the most, thinking it's too difficult. That's what I do.
There we go. You said it. And, we're proof of that, of Rory's work in itself, because as developing my programs and workshops and books and things to do with emotional awareness, Rory ended up mentoring me last year. And it was out of that the self-help bookshelf came out as a secondary project. So I was trying to get one project going and we ended up with two. So the self-help bookshelf became this collaboration of four of us now, all very like-minded, where we are all trying to fit in, stand out, but all trying to find that place where we belong in the life, in business, so that we can offer that to you as well. And that in turn has resulted in three other people getting their books out, because I've got a number of books out already. You can find them all on Amazon. But Rory, Sue, and Emma have all got books out there on Amazon as well. There'll be some links in the description, because all of our topics have a unique approach to helping people understand themselves through different perspectives. So whether it is Rory's NeuroCreative flow, Sue about people feeling fragmented with autism and non-verbal learning disability, whether it is Emma and dealing with the trauma side of things and helping people fit in after they've had years and years of trauma and finding their self again through that process. And again, for myself, with the emotional awareness. So again, for me, it's neurodiversity when there's a lot of emotional dysregulation. That's my expertise, is more bringing that back into line and creating that engaging conversation between the younger generation and the adults who are working with them. So we are all here helping in so many different ways, that just pop a message in the YouTube channel, the group, or reach out to one of us. And if it doesn't fit with one of us, we will certainly refer you on, and if not within the group, to someone else if we can't figure it out ourselves. But we're here. We know you're here because you've watched this far. If you've heard me say that, I'm just being quirky now. And honestly, thank you for joining us today. Fantastic conversation, Rory. I really love this one. I always enjoy these conversations, but this was epic. And thank you again for talking about how to fit in or to stand out in the High Leverage Actions podcast on the Self-Help Bookshelf channel. And don't forget, check out on the links as well or in the group, go and check the Facebook group or LinkedIn as to where Rory and Sue's book launch is going to be on the 30th of November.
Or just say, I want to know, and I'll reply with the link.
There we go. Communicate with us. It's that simple. Let's communicate. All right. Thank you, Rory. Thank you.
Cheers.
See you all again next week. Bye-bye. We're done.
It's still streaming.
No.